The truth is, people don't fear losing what they believe they can always have. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about embodying a mindset that naturally shifts the dynamic in your favor. When someone knows, deep down, that you are not a given, that you are not someone who will wait around endlessly, they begin to value your presence in a completely different way. Think about it. What makes something valuable? Scarcity. The things we take for granted are the ones we assume will always be there. The moment we realize something isn't guaranteed, we start to pay attention. We start to appreciate it in ways we never did before. It's why people don't appreciate the air they breathe until they're underwater, gasping for it. The same concept applies to relationships. When someone assumes you'll always be there, they become complacent. They stop putting in effort. They stop seeing you as someone they need to win over because they believe you've already been won. So how do you change that? You don't do it by threatening to leave or trying to manipulate the situation. You do it by becoming a woman who lives her life in such a way that your absence is felt when you're not around. That means investing in yourself, not making someone else the center of your universe. It means having passions, goals, and a sense of purpose that goes beyond your relationship. When you cultivate that, you naturally create a dynamic where the other person starts to realize that your presence is not something they should ever take lightly. Let's talk about energy. The energy you bring into any interaction dictates how the other person perceives you. If your energy says, I will wait for you no matter what, I will be here even if you don't prioritize me, I will keep giving even when I'm not receiving, then that's exactly how you'll be treated. But when your energy says, I am here by choice, not by necessity, I am with you because I want to be, not because I have to be, that's when the fear of losing you begins to set in. This isn't about being distant or cold. It's about being selective. Your time, your presence, your love, these are gifts. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to them. When you understand that, you stop overextending yourself for someone who isn't meeting you at the same level. You stop accepting the bare minimum. And when someone realizes that your affection isn't something they can just assume will always be there, they start to behave differently. They become more intentional. They put in effort. Not because you force them to, but because they feel the difference when you're not there. What does this look like in action? It looks like maintaining your own life outside of them. It looks like pursuing your goals with or without their encouragement. It looks like not answering the phone every time they call. Not because you're trying to make a point, but because you're genuinely busy living your life. It looks like not rearranging your entire schedule to accommodate theirs at the expense of your own priorities. When you do this, something interesting happens. They start to notice. They start to wonder. They start to realize that you are not someone who will just be there no matter what. And in that moment, their fear of losing you is triggered. Not because you demanded it, but because your actions made it clear that you are not a woman who can be taken for granted. And here's the most important part. You don't do this just to make them afraid. You do it because this is how you should be living anyway. You should be someone who values yourself enough to have standards, to have a life that is full with or without a relationship. When you embody this, it's not an act, it's who you are. And when you become that woman, the right person won't just fear losing you, they will actively work to keep you. The moment you act like you need him to choose you, you lose. It's not because men don't like commitment, and it's not because they don't want love. It's because the second someone senses that they have all the power in a dynamic, the value exchange shifts. And that shift, it changes everything. Attraction thrives in a space of equal energy. It's built in the moments where two people show up as individuals who choose each other, not as one person trying to convince the other that they're worthy. Confidence is what separates those who effortlessly draw people in from those who constantly feel like they have to prove their worth. When you radiate confidence, you send out a message that says, I am whole on my own. My life is full, my time is valuable. If you want to be part of this, you have to step up. And that's powerful But here's the problem. Too many people hand over their confidence the moment they feel something for someone. They start doubting themselves. They get caught in the mindset of, am I good enough? Does he like me? Am I saying the right things? And before they know it, they're operating from a place of fear. Fear of losing him, fear of not being enough, fear of making a mistake that will drive him away. And what happens then? They shrink, they make themselves smaller, they overanalyze, they overgive, and they start chasing. And in doing so, they take themselves out of the dynamic of mutual attraction and place themselves in a position of need. The truth is, people don't value what's always available. They don't fight for what's easy to get. And the moment someone senses that you are waiting on them for your happiness, the urgency to keep you disappears. But when you're a woman who knows her worth, when you live as if your life is already beautiful, with or without them, that's when the fear of losing you kicks in. Because people don't want to lose something that feels rare. Confidence isn't arrogance. It isn't about playing games or acting like you don't care. It's about knowing that you are the prize. It's about stepping into every interaction from a place of, I know what I bring to the table, and if you can't see it, that's your loss. It's about trusting that the right person will recognize your value without you having to prove it, and it's about never settling for someone who needs convincing. The shift happens when you start showing up differently. When instead of being the person who waits by the phone, you're the person who is too busy living an incredible life to obsess over whether or not he texted back. When instead of rearranging your schedule to fit his, you make sure that he is actually adding value to your world before you clear space for him. When instead of fearing that he might lose interest, you trust that if he does, it's simply making room for someone who will truly appreciate you. That's confidence. That's what makes people sit up and take notice. That's what makes them start to worry about losing you. Think about the moments in your life when you've wanted something the most. Maybe it was a job, an opportunity, a goal. You wanted it not just because it was there, but because it felt valuable, because it felt like it was something not everyone could have. People feel the same way about relationships. When they sense that someone is truly exceptional, someone who is strong, independent, fulfilled, and not desperate for their validation, it creates a pull. They start to realize, if I don't step up, I could lose something amazing. That's the energy you need to bring, not just for him, but for you. Because the truth is, confidence isn't just something that makes you attractive. It's something that changes your entire life. It affects how people treat you, how you navigate opportunities, and most importantly, how you see yourself. And the most beautiful part, it's not something you have to be born with. It's something you can choose to step into every single day. So the next time you catch yourself doubting, questioning, or feeling like you need to prove your worth, stop, take a breath, remind yourself of who you are. You are valuable, you are enough. And the right person will fear losing you, not because you manipulated them into it, but because your confidence made it clear that they'd be lucky to have you. Pulling away isn't about playing games. It's about creating space for him to actually feel your absence. See, most people operate under this illusion that the more you give, the more someone will value you. But that's not how human nature works. When something is constantly in front of you, you start to take it for granted. It becomes predictable. It loses its impact. And if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, giving, being present, showing up consistently, but he's not responding the way you want him to, this is why. He never actually gets a chance to miss you. Think about your favorite song. You play it over and over, and at first, it's exciting, but eventually it just becomes background noise. You still like it, but it no longer gives you that rush it once did. Now, what happens when you take a break, when you don't hear it for a while? The moment it comes back on, you feel that excitement again because absence made you appreciate it more. The same principle applies here. If you are always the one initiating, always texting first, always making the plans, then he never has to wonder where you are. He never has to feel that moment of uncertainty where he questions, is she thinking about me? Is she losing interest? And that's a dangerous place to be in because once you become predictable, you become replaceable. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but if I pull away, won't he think I'm not interested? Won't he just move on? And that's the real fear, isn't it? The fear that if you stop putting in all the effort, he won't put any in at all. But here's the truth. You should want to know that. Because if someone is only with you because of the effort you put in, then that's not a relationship. That's a one-sided chase. A man who values you, who truly sees your worth, won't just sit back and let you disappear. He will notice the space you create, and he will move towards you to close the gap. If he doesn't, then you have your answer. The key here isn't about manipulation, it's about self-respect. You don't create distance to trick him into chasing you. You do it to protect your own energy, to ensure you're in a dynamic where you are equally pursued. When you make yourself scarce, when you stop being the one always reaching out, you force him to ask himself a very important question. Do I want to step up, or do I let her go? And if he lets you go, then you know he was never truly afraid of losing you in the first place. But let's talk about how to create space in a way that feels natural and aligned with who you are. Because what you don't want to do is go from being present and engaged to suddenly cold and distant. That's not mystery, that's just confusion. Instead, start by shifting your energy back to yourself. Ask yourself, when was the last time I did something just for me? So many people get lost in relationships because they stop living their own lives. They build everything around the other person, and in doing so, they lose the very essence of what made them attractive in the first place. When you're out there, living your life, going to the gym, meeting new people, pursuing your passions, you naturally create a sense of space. You become unavailable in a way that isn't forced, but rather a reflection of the fact that you have a life that isn't centered around him. And that is what makes someone start to feel your absence. It's not about playing games. It's about reminding him, I'm a person with my own world, and you have to make an effort to be a part of it. The moment he senses that you aren't just waiting around for him, that's when he starts to value your time more. He starts to feel the weight of your absence, because for the first time, he realizes that your presence was never guaranteed. It was a choice. And when a man understands that he has something to lose, that's when he starts to show up differently. He puts in more effort. He becomes more intentional. He stops coasting and starts pursuing, because now he's no longer just assuming you'll always be there. He's realizing that if he doesn't step up, someone else will. And that is how you create a dynamic where his fear of losing you kicks in. Not by begging for his attention, not by over-explaining your worth, but by subtly shifting your energy in a way that makes him realize he actually has something valuable to lose. So the next time you find yourself over-investing, constantly initiating, or feeling like you're the one carrying the relationship, take a step back. Not because you're trying to punish him, but because you deserve to be met halfway. Create space, not to play games, but to give him the opportunity to choose you. And if he does, that's when you know it's real. Routine is the silent killer of attraction. It's what makes people feel too comfortable, too certain, too safe. And the moment someone feels like they have you locked in, the moment they stop questioning, what's she up to? What's she thinking? That's the moment they stop fearing losing you. Because deep down, people don't fear losing what they believe will always be there. They fear losing what feels slightly out of reach, what keeps them on their toes, what excites them because it's unpredictable. The biggest mistake people make in relationships is thinking that consistency means predictability. And let's be clear, consistency is good. You want someone who shows up, who's reliable, who's present, but there's a difference between being consistent in your value and being predictable in your presence. The person who always texts first, the person who always says yes to last-minute plans, the person who always laughs at the same jokes, gives the same reactions, follows the same patterns. That person, that's not mystery, that's not intrigue, that's routine. And routine doesn't scare anyone. Routine is comfortable, and comfort doesn't create urgency. Now think about the beginning of a relationship. There's an energy to it. There's that sense of the unknown. Does she like me as much as I like her? When will I see her next? What's she doing right now? That kind of tension is what makes people invest. It makes them think about you when you're not around. But as time passes, that energy fades for one reason: certainty. The moment someone feels like they know your every move, the chase disappears. The effort disappears. Because there's nothing left to figure out. And if there's nothing left to figure out, there's nothing left to lose. This doesn't mean you need to play games. This isn't about being manipulative or creating unnecessary drama. It's about maintaining that edge that makes someone feel like they need to earn you every day. So, how do you do that? You break the pattern. If you always respond immediately, take a beat before you reply. If you're always free on Friday nights, let him wonder why you're suddenly unavailable. If you always react the same way to his jokes, his messages, his invitations, switch it up. Keep him guessing. Keep him engaged. Because when someone isn't sure exactly how things will play out, they pay more attention. They put in more effort. They don't take you for granted. Now let's talk about energy. Because unpredictability isn't just about what you do, it's about how you show up. Have you ever noticed how some people have this magnetic pull? How they walk into a room and everyone turns to look, not just because they're attractive, but because there's something about them that feels exciting. That's the energy of someone who is constantly evolving, someone who doesn't stay the same, someone who is growing, learning, shifting, trying new things. That's the kind of energy that makes someone think, I need to keep up or I'm going to lose her. A lot of people get into relationships and stop growing. They settle into a dynamic where they feel like they've been chosen. So they no longer feel the need to keep improving. But the second you stop evolving is the second you stop being exciting, the second you become predictable. And the second that happens, someone stops fearing losing you because you're not someone they feel challenged by anymore. You're just there. But when you're someone who is always pushing forward, always bringing something new to the table, that's when people start thinking, if I don't step up, someone else will. So unpredictability isn't just about when you text back or whether you say yes to plans. It's about your whole essence. It's about keeping life fresh, keeping experiences exciting, keeping your world expanding so that you remain someone worth chasing. It's not about making him unsure of how you feel. It's about making him sure that if he doesn't show up for you in the right way, he might lose someone extraordinary. And that's the real secret. When someone truly values you, they don't just fear losing you, they make sure they never have to. They step up, they put in the work, because they know you're not the kind of person who settles for less than you deserve. And that is the most powerful position you can be in. Telling someone you're valuable is never enough. Words are cheap. You can say you're confident, say you have high standards, say you know your worth, but none of it matters unless your actions reflect it. A person who truly values themselves doesn't need to convince anyone of it. It's simply evident in the way they move, the way they interact, the way they handle themselves in any situation. And this is where so many people go wrong. They think if they remind someone enough times, if they keep saying, I won't tolerate this, or I deserve better, that it will change something. But the truth is, real power isn't in the words you speak. It's in the boundaries you uphold and the way you conduct yourself every single day. Imagine this. You tell someone, I need respect, but every time they disrespect you, you stay. What message are you really sending? You're telling them that your words mean nothing. You're showing them that no matter how much they cross the line, you will remain exactly where you are. And once someone realizes that, they stop fearing your loss. Because deep down, they know they can get away with it. The real game changer is when you don't have to say anything at all. Because your actions already demand respect. Think about the most magnetic people you've ever met, the ones who make an impact without trying. They don't tell you they're valuable. They don't announce their worth. They just live in a way that makes it obvious. They walk into a room and there's something about them, something that makes people want to be around them, to listen, to invest. And why? Because they exude a quiet confidence. They don't beg for attention. They don't over-explain themselves. They don't need to convince you of their importance. They let their presence do all the talking. Now, let's bring this back to relationships. If you want someone to fear losing you, it's not about making threats, not about saying, if you don't step up, I'll leave. It's about being a person who naturally commands effort, and that starts with you, not them. If you want someone to respect your time, you have to respect it first. If you want someone to appreciate you, you have to show them that you appreciate yourself. If you want someone to feel like you're a prize, you have to treat yourself like one. Because the moment you do, they'll realize something. You're not the kind of person they can take for granted. Most people make the mistake of thinking that attraction is built in moments of presence, that the key is in constantly showing up, in always being available, in proving your love through endless effort. But sometimes the most powerful moments happen in your absence, when you pull back, not as a game, not as manipulation, but because you are too busy living a life you love to sit around waiting for someone to notice you. And that's where real fear kicks in. When someone starts to wonder, where is she? What's she doing? Is she slipping away? That's when they feel the urgency to act. But here's the catch. You don't create that urgency by pretending to be busy, by faking independence, by trying to manufacture scarcity. You create it by genuinely having a life that excites you. When you invest in yourself, your passions, your health, your friendships, your personal growth, you naturally become more attractive. Because now, you're not just someone waiting for love, you're someone already full of it. You have energy. You have purpose. You have something that makes you light up inside. And that is intoxicating. And do you know what happens when someone realizes they might lose that kind of person? They wake up. They recognize that they're not dealing with someone who needs them, but someone who chooses them. And that is a distinction that changes everything. When a person knows you're with them out of choice, not out of dependence, they understand that at any given moment, you have the strength to walk away. That's what makes them step up. That's what makes them afraid of losing you. But let's talk about the biggest fear people have when hearing this. They say, what if I do all of this and he still doesn't care? What if I value myself and he still doesn't fear losing me? And my answer to that is simple. Then he was never the right one for you. Because a man who truly sees your value will never risk losing you once he realizes you are someone who won't settle. The wrong person will always push their luck. They will always test how much you're willing to take. But the right person, the one who actually deserves you, he will recognize that if he doesn't step up, someone else will. And that's the type of man you want. So stop telling him you're valuable. Stop trying to convince him with words. Just be it. Be the woman who moves with confidence, who respects herself too much to beg, who invests in her own life so deeply that she doesn't have time to worry about whether or not someone else sees her worth. Because when you do that, trust me, he will see it. And if he's the right man, he will never risk losing it. Nothing shifts the power dynamic in a relationship more than the ability to walk away. And I don't mean threatening to leave every time something doesn't go your way. That's manipulation, not confidence. I mean genuinely knowing deep in your bones that if someone isn't showing up for you in the way you deserve, you have the strength to let go. That kind of energy is magnetic. It commands respect. And more than that, it triggers the deepest fear in a man's mind. The fear of losing something truly special. Think about it. What makes anything valuable? Scarcity. The moment someone knows they can't take you for granted, the moment they realize you are not just an option, but a choice that could disappear at any time if they stop appreciating it, that's when everything changes. But here's the catch. This has to come from a real place. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to be willing to walk away while secretly hoping he calls your bluff. He will feel it. And if he feels it, he won't believe it. So what does it actually mean to be ready to walk away? It means having an unwavering sense of self-worth. It means knowing that your value doesn't come from how much someone else wants you, but from how much you respect and love yourself. It means refusing to tolerate breadcrumbs, mixed signals, or emotional unavailability. It means recognizing that the right person will never make you beg for their time, affection, or commitment. And if you find yourself constantly justifying someone's bad behavior or convincing yourself to stay in something that doesn't feel right, that's your answer. You're already losing yourself in the process of trying to keep them. People always ask, but what if I love him? What if I don't want to leave? Love is not a reason to stay in a place where you are not being cherished. Love is beautiful, but it's not enough on its own. Love without respect becomes desperation. Love without reciprocity becomes one-sided. Love without boundaries turns into self-abandonment. And the moment you abandon yourself in an attempt to keep someone else is the moment they start losing respect for you. Here's the ironic part. The moment you truly embody this mindset, the moment you actually believe you will be fine without him, that's the moment he starts fearing the idea of losing you. It's not when you say it. It's not when you try to make him jealous. It's when you quietly, confidently, and unapologetically carry yourself as someone who refuses to settle for anything less than what she deserves. When you stop reacting to his inconsistent behavior, when you stop over-explaining yourself, when you stop waiting for him to choose you, he will feel it. And that shift, that's powerful. Because when someone senses that you are no longer dependent on them for your happiness, they start realizing just how much you actually bring to their life. This is not about playing games. This is about recognizing that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And if someone isn't treating you with the love and consistency you deserve, they don't get to keep that privilege. The only way a man will ever fear losing you is if he knows that it's a real possibility. And that possibility only exists when you are truly, completely willing to walk away. So the next time you find yourself waiting for a text, over-analyzing his words, or wondering if you should lower your standards just to keep him, remember this. The woman who values herself above all else is the woman who never has to beg for love. She is the one who inspires commitment, not by demanding it, but by being someone who would never settle for anything less. And that, right there, is the most powerful position you can ever be in.